Alright, I think we're rolling. Ooh, there's a cold one out there. Snowshoeing off the Rainbow Lakes Trail here outside of Poncha Springs, Colorado at altitude in the winter. We're going to do a training talk on how I ran a sub 30-minute 10K in college. I did it 3 times on the track, sub 29:58 at conference, big negative split to win the Ivy League Conference, tactical race 2008, but then also at the Penn Relays, the time trial. I think I got 6th at the Penn Relays Invitational 10K, as well as at the Bucknell Invitational 10K, where I ran my PR of 29:47. Now, this might not be totally applicable to you. Maybe you're in the low 30-minute range. This is more of an advanced 10K training and kind of the workouts and the mileage progression and race context progression that I was in to improve my 10K. I did run 32:05 in high school on the road, so it was knocking, over 2 minutes off there. But maybe you're in the low 30-minute range. I've done videos on sub 35-minute 10K, sub 38-minute 10K, sub 40-minute 10K. If you're more in that range, a lot of the training principles are relatively the same, but this is just more advanced training. Maybe you're looking to run in college, or you're looking to be really competitive and improve your 10K time. So this video is for you. So let's get started. First, number 1 point. Ooh, my hand is cold. It's like 15 degrees out. Fahrenheit. First point, you need a good aerobic base. You need a good aerobic base. I was running triple-digit mileage weeks, well over 100 miles a week. Some guys could do it on a lot less. They're more talented than me. You're gonna need some talent as well. You're gonna need probably a relatively high VO2 max. A lot of that is something you're born with. A lot of it can be trained. You're gonna need enough basic speed in your 5K racing. If you haven't run a 5K under 14:40, you're probably not going to be able to run sub 30 in the 10K, especially if you've peaked out. Most guys I know that run sub 30 minutes in the 10K run at least in the 14:20s. So I ran 14:29. I've known guys that have run 14:40, maybe that's their 5K PR from the year before, and then they go out to a nice California meet like Stanford or Mount Sac and run a really fast 10K, get in a good group, get good weather conditions. But the basic speed needs to be there, sub 14:35K speed, so you could put 2 sub 15-minute 5Ks back to back. And again, it's 3 flat per kilometer pace, about 448 per 1600, 450 per mile pace. That's 72-second laps, 72 seconds per 400 meters. So it's a nice and even number, and a great barrier, of course, to crack. Maybe you're looking to crack 15 in the 5K as well. A lot of these training tips are applicable to you. But in college, I had 16 weeks in a row where I was over 100 miles a week, building base into cross-country season, racing cross-country season, racing 5Ks and 3Ks indoors to work on speed, and then translating that speed to outdoors, where I focus mainly on the 5K and 10K. So the other thing with looking at your year, looking at your peak 10K performances, usually track races in the spring, maybe a road race, is that you want to race shorter distances usually before that. So you're racing a couple 5Ks probably. Maybe you race a 1500 or a mile or a 3K if you have a 3K option, 2 miles, something like that, to really work on your VO2 max and your speed in those shorter events that take 8 to 15 minutes. Whereas the 10K, it's more, the lactate threshold becomes more involved. Critical velocity, right? Being able to run right at that 95% of VO2 max, hitting 100% obviously at the end, but being able to hold that uncomfortably fast pace and that steady pace for 30 minutes at a time, or hopefully right under 30 minutes, 29 minutes something. So it's building that aerobic base with high mileage, some element of a long run still, right? You're running 100 miles a week, your long run's probably up at least over 16, maybe 18 miles. You don't need super long runs like 20 milers, like if you're training for a marathon, but to have at least some long runs over 15 miles, or what is that in kilometers? 22, 25K, 30K long runs are not out of the question for a 10K runner. And then the other thing we'd be talking about is working on that speed. So you have the base, you've gotten in some tempo runs. I was doing tempo runs, a lot of up-tempo runs. We'd do a 10K run or a 6-mile progression run out on the roads. We'd usually be rolling 520 pace, maybe down to 510 per mile pace. So that's like 310 or 320 kilometer pace down under 315 per kilometer pace, right? For these 10-mile progression runs, which we get progressively faster. Sometimes we close it down hard at like 5 flat for the last mile. Sometimes we start at 530 though, right? If you did an all-out 6 mile tempo run and tried to run 5:10 pace or 5 minute pace, it's almost like racing basically a 31 or 32 minute 10K. So that would be too hard of a tempo run. Most runners run their tempo runs too hard. You got to be honest with yourself and say, that was an 85% effort, right? I didn't race my tempo run. A lot of my teammates would race the tempo run. They'd close down on the track. We'd come into the indoor track for the last mile of our tempo runs, and they'd all drop a sub 5. And it would be like, these were guys that were running 27-minute 8Ks in cross country. They couldn't run under 5 in the last mile of a race. They couldn't crack 31 minutes for 10K on a track. But here they're dropping sub 5-minute miles at the end of a tempo run. Probably wasn't really a tempo run if you're doing that. Your lactate threshold needs to be down faster than that. It doesn't have to be 450 pace, but it needs to be close to low 5-minute pace for sure. But you're building a lot of strength and endurance with that. But at the same time, you still have to work on your speed, and that's why you're racing 3K and 5K maybe before. Maybe it's an indoor track season type of thing. It works out real well in that progression. You can't be burning it too hot in over race, or you're gonna fizzle out outdoors. That happened to me my 5th year as a senior. But the other thing is to work on that turnover is 400 meter repeats and 1,000 meter repeats. Those are the other two main ones besides that long run element, that up-tempo 6 mile progression run. I call them up-tempo because they're not true lactate threshold tempo runs. That would be more like a 20-minute effort at 60-minute race velocity, more of closer to critical velocity, we'd say. The high end spectrum of lactate threshold, harder end, which is only a little slower than 10K pace really. But that's what the 1,000 meter repeats are for. We're doing a lot of sessions, like 8 to 10 by a kilometer, 8 to 10 by 1,000 meters. Starting off early in the season, usually with a pretty short rest, only a minute to a minute and a half rest, 90-second rest, 10 by a K on the track, usually in flats, in trainers, maybe transferring into shoes if you have time for the last couple, or transferring into spikes to get the calves used to that stress of running fast, and slowly progressing down to close to 10K goal pace. So, maybe you're starting off and they're a little slower, maybe they're 305, 306 per kilometer, but at the end you're humming down to 3 flat or sub 3 minutes. And when I was in sub 30-minute 10K shape, I could go out and do a 10 by a K type of workout and average 259, 258 with a 1 minute rest in between. Because on race day, you're going to have to do it with 0 rest. So that's, working the 10 by a kilometer down, even 8 by a kilometer. Maybe if you want to do it more traditional VO2 max style, 6 to 8 times a kilometer, closer to 5K, current 5K race pace, but with a 2-minute rest or a 2.5-minute rest. And those would be the fine differences in your kilometer repeat types of workouts. One's more at 10K pace with a shorter rest, higher volume. VO2 max is more at 5K pace, maybe even goal 5K pace for the last couple, but with a longer rest, 2-minute rest. But that would be more for peaking. You don't want to overdo it. You burn it too hot early on, you're gonna fizzle out. But what did Neil Young say? It's better to burn out than to fade away. Not really. You want to peak at the right time, and you want to peak for the 10K, not the 5K, if that's your focus for the sub 30. The final workout, of course, is you got to have more turnover. You're always doing some strides, 4 to 6 times 100 meter strides a couple times a week, working on that speed. Maybe you're doing hill sprints early in the season, working on that all-out kick. But the final thing would be doing a lot of 400 meter repeats. Maybe they start off as something like 20 by 200. We did that a lot on the indoor track in the winter. And not crazy fast, not like a middle distance workout, just more up tempo, 3K pace, right? And then eventually in outdoor, you're translating that to 16 by 400, even 20 times 400 meters. And the good thing about these is you could do them at 3K pace. You're faster than 5K pace. It's faster than VO2 max velocity. But you're not making them anaerobic. They would be anaerobic if you had a really short rest and you were doing them at 1500 meter race pace, right? These are more, I was doing them in, like 68, 69 seconds. Actually, that was kind of close to my 5K pace. It was a little faster. It was a little faster than 5K pace. So you're doing them at 68 seconds, 69 seconds. Maybe you're doing 16 by 400 meters with a minute and a half rest in between. And so you've got this balance where you've got these faster workouts, these 400 meter repeats, pretty high volume, faster velocity than 5K pace. You got your 1,000 meter repeats at between maybe 5K pace to 10K pace or even a little slower. We call it 12K pace would be critical velocity, right? Tinman style, you know what I'm talking about. With a short rest though, short rest, high volume. And then you've got your threshold, your tempo runs, more like marathoner mindset, marathon pace work. And you're probably not racing marathons in college or when you're trying to run these fast 10Ks like I was, but that marathon mentality, you need the strength and endurance kind of a marathon to be running 25 laps on a 400-meter track. It's a long distance race, and to have the strength of some long runs and that high mileage aerobic base behind you. But again, it's a progression. It's a progression, and you know, there's other workout variations you could definitely have in there, but those are the real key bread and butter ones. Are you doing those 400-meter repeats, doing those kilometer repeats, 1,000-meter repeats? Maybe you're doing 800 sometimes too. Racing your way into shape as well with some tune-up 5Ks, tune-up 3Ks, tune-up 1,500 types of races, shorter distances, and then more of the longer tempo runs, even 6 to 8 miles, right, of a long progression run, building that strength, much slower than 10K pace, but more like half marathon to marathon type of projected race pace. And those are the bread and butter workouts that got me sub 30 minutes in the 10K. Again, check out my other videos, training for a 10K. They're pretty similar in concept. The advanced nuances with the exact pace and the volume of the workouts kind of changes depending on your running experience as well as your weekly mileage, because you don't want to get hurt either. You don't want to overtrain. But I got the sub 35-minute 10K video. You can check that out on the playlist, as well as other 5K and 10K training tips, cross country, track, you name it. You know me, any service, any distance, I've experienced it all. Thanks so much for subscribing on here. Thumbs up if you like these types of videos, and stay tuned for more.